Hey guys, welcome to CyborgKitty. Today we are going to talk about writing up a function to find the longest word in the string. So there are a couple of things in here. So first thing is let's just set some rules here. So we have it here. Okay, so we want to write a function that returns length of the longest word, which is a number. We want to return a number for the length, and the input is a string. So first thing that comes to your mind is what would the first step be? The first thing we want to do is we want to take the string, let's just say here, the quick brown fox, right? I'm just going to write it, the quick brown fox. I'm just going to write these four letters. So for now, this is a string. That's how we got it. So now what we want to do is first we want to break it down into an array. So I want it to break down into four different words instead. This is the game plan. I'm gonna tell you how we can write that to achieve these steps. I'm just gonna break down the function into different steps, and then we can write the code to fit that. So we got the quick, brown, and fox into four different letters, and now we want to do some sort of logic to get or sort the words to get, let's just say longest to, oh, my bad, longest to smallest. That's what we want. So we want to be able to somehow sort this so we get a written something like this. So we got quick, brown, fox, the. Like these letters could be back and forth because they have the same length. So we want first the longest length words and then we want the smallest length words. And then what we do, we take the first part of the array because all we need is the length of the longest word. So we take this array's first word and then return its length. So this is the game plan. This is what we gotta do. So let's start coding. So I wrote up a little function here so we can experiment with it. So let me just comment this out because we don't need this yet. That is for the sort function, which I'll get to in a little bit later. So this is what I wrote in the HTML here. So we need to take the input string, make it into an array, sort the array, and then get the final word, which is the final result, and we'll just do the length of it to get the number. All right, so let's just save that, and I'm going to write a little bit of JavaScript here. So we're going to give input string here. So array input string. Let's just write that. And then we're going to put that input string in this element. And that's going to be oops, input string because we want this value to be in this element when showing up on HTML. So there we go. So let's take the default one that's given here. We're just going to work on this string. Let's just copy that string, get back in here. Okay, there we go. So the initial input string is nothing but the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. So now that we got here, and that gets added into the element. So that's basic first step. We're just going to check what this does. Okay, let's run it in Chrome. There we go. So this one does nothing because we commented out to JavaScript, but there you go. That's the input string. So now, how do we make it into a separate words? In order for us to do that, what we got to do is split it. So that's where this part comes in. So we're going to take and just call it array input, and then we'll split it with space because a sentence is nothing but a bunch of letters with spaces in between. So if you just want to extract the letters from that string, we're going to split the string with a space. So this what the split function does is split function matches this particular character, in this case it's a space, and then breaks the sentence with that character and returns the words left out. And then we're going to just add it. We'll name it array input and add it to this element here. So we can see what happens on the second step. So let's just go here again and refresh it. And there we go. So we got the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. And now it's broken into a bunch of different letters because we used the split function. And then the next step is somehow we have to sort this array of letters, my bad, array of words. So we get the longest one first, and then so on and so forth in a descending order as per the length. And that can be achieved from using the sort function. But there's a little bit of trouble with this sort function here. I do want to explain how sort function works first of all before we get into a little complicated of defining a function to do this. So in order for us to do that, let me just get here and comment it. Okay, and now I'm just gonna take this out because I want to explain how the whole thing works. So instead, we're just gonna sort letters, sorry, numbers, because let's forget about these words and finding the length and everything. I just want to give you an idea on how the sort function works in the first place. What are the basic rules that define the behavior of sort function? So let's say we just give it some numbers, right? 2, 0, 5, 3. This is our array with simple single digit numbers. And what we want to do is, let's just show it there so everybody can see in there what it does. Okay, there we go. So, and then we're clicking the button. What we're saying is on click, call this function. And what that function does is it sorts the array first and then shows it in a result. This is just for our convenience. So this is what we're concentrating on right now. That being said, if you observe, you could see that when we are actually splitting the function, we get an output. We get an output of arrays that we are saving in this string, in this variable, my bad. But we don't have to do this here because what sort function does is actually sorts the input array itself. So the result is saved in that variable itself. You got to be really careful with this, especially let's say if you're writing some big function and you really want to save the initial string. In this example is this, you do want to copy it and then apply the sort function, because if you once you do this, this is gone. You all you have in this variable is a newly sorted array, and that is all gone. So you do want to make sure that you get a copy of it in case you want to save the initial way the input is given. So that being said, now let's see how this array input works out here. So once you refresh it, you see you got an input of 2053. So as expected, sorting gives you 0, 2, 3, 5. It's pretty normal. So now what happens if you make the 3 into a 13 and 2 into, let's just say 0, 2, right? So what happens is it actually works in a little weird now. Let's refresh it. Oh, I gave it a 0, 2. Never mind, that wouldn't work. So let's make 0 to a 10. Okay, now refresh that. Okay, so now you have 10, 5, 2, 10, 5, 13. So in general, what someone would expect is, okay, so now we are sorting the numbers. It should do 2, 5, 10, and 13. But when you sort it, you would see it does 10, 13, 2, and 5. That is because sort function goes by the first character that's given as an input of the array. So it doesn't matter what you have on the second character. It could be a 0, 3, or 50 or 100. It just does not matter. It just goes by the first character, which is why what it thinks is, okay, I got a 1 here, so 1 is greater than 2. So let's just put 1 here. And then in these two, I have 0 and 3. So let's do that. So it pretty much acts like an alphabetical order. And now let's do the next part. Let's see what happens when you give words in there instead of numbers, right? So we do a bat, and we do an let's just write a name, ale, and then something else. Let's say a dog. Okay, so we got this in here. Let's save it and refresh it. There we go. So all this does is just does it in an alphabetical order. The sorting for actual array of strings is nothing but alphabetical order. And next thing we're going to do is what would happen if one of these letters is capitalized, case sensitive, right? And then you refresh it and then you sort it. You would see the capital letter comes first. So I want to explain to you the logic behind this. So we're going to go ahead and check out the ASCII table, right? ASCII table is how all the characters are encoded, Unicode. So you would see if you see ASCII table, it starts from 0 in a decimal value, it goes to 127 characters, right? In this table, you would notice that 0 to 9, the numbers come first, and then comes the capital letters, and then comes the lowercase letters. So that's exactly what the sort function follows. It sees if there is numbers come first. Let's do 0, right? So save it. I'll show you here. So following this ASCII table rule, what happens here is the number comes first, and then the capital letters, and then this lowercase sorted out, of course, in an alphabetical order from there. You could see that 0, dog with a capital D, and then ale and bat. So that's how basic sort function works out, right? So in here, what happens, let's just take this out here. So I'm just going to uncomment it. So now we have a sort function applied to our string, which is split into different words based on the space, right? So when you refresh it, it sorts it because the capital letter, it stays the same. And then you have the rest of them actually sorted out by the alphabetical order. But we don't want that. What we want is for it to actually sort out depending on the length of that word instead. So that's where defining a custom function to the sort works out. So when I say defining a function in the sort itself, basically we're telling the sort function, follow this rule and compare two elements in there and do this instead, rather than just following the ASCII table. So in order to write a function inside the sort method, we just do function and then add two characters, A and B, and then define what A and B is supposed to do. So what is the written value and how does sort function base that on the written value? So what happens here is if the written value is less than 0, let me just write it down here. So if return, okay, there we go, is less than 0, what it makes sure is A gets lower index than B. That's what it happens. So it takes it applies this function to two elements at a time. So let's say, for example, it takes the and quick, and then whatever we do here, if the return is a -1, it makes sure A has always the less index than B does. So what happens if it is 0? If it is 0, A and B stay in same spot. Nothing changes, no index change happens. And if it is greater than 0, it makes sure it gets higher spot, higher index than B. So all we're doing is we're just following the written value. All the sort functions method's going to do is use this function and keep sorting two elements at a time over and over again to get all of them to follow that rule. So that's simply put what a custom compare function does in a sort method. So what we want to do is we want to compare A and B's length. So we do A dot length minus B dot length. So when they compare, either you get a minus value or 0 or a plus value, right? So let's just see what happens here. Let's just save that and then go in here, refresh it. So it's just simple rules here. I'm just going to do a break tag because I don't like the way that it's showing up there. There we go. There we go. So these are the things that come into picture. So when you see the result, you could see that three-letter words come first, and then the four and the five, and then the largest letter. So that's what's happening. So basically, it's taking -1 and then doing it in an ascending order. But see, ascending order still works out if you want to use it, but only problem is once it's in ascending order, in order to get that longest letter in the string, you gotta actually get the length again and do -1 to get the last index of the array. Rather than doing that, by making it in a descending order so that we have the longest letter in the beginning, all we got to do is do b dot length and do a dot length. Just save that, go back in here, refresh it, and sort it. Now you have the longest one here. What the easiest part of this is when you're writing, when you're trying to get the final result, right? So I'm just going to put the ID in here. So the final result is nothing but the array inputs first letter. So you just do it 0. Rather than, let's say, if you had it in an ascending order, what you would do is you take the array inputs length and then you do -1 to get the last index. So rather than writing all of this or using anything extra computing power, you just go back and do 0 and then you hit save. Now let's see what happens. You refresh it and you sort it. There you go. Jumped is the final word. So now we are almost done. We just need the final step. We don't want the letter itself. That's the rule. We just want to return its length. So what we do is instead just write length and then save it and then refresh it and sort, and then we got 6. So that's it. So this is the step-by-step explanation on how we're writing the function. I'm just going to give you a quick explanation again and then write the function and see how it works out. We take the input string, which is a string, we split it and we get it with a comma. So this is like an array of letters from the string. I keep saying letters, my bad. It's an array of words from the string. And then we take these words and we run it through our custom function comparing the length. So it can rearrange the spots of each word depending on its length and make it into an descending order for us. And then by doing that, what we're doing is we're picking the first letter, which of course has the highest length, and then returning its value in numeral. So that's it. So that's the function. So now let's write it in here and pretty much crunch it down so we don't have to use up all this here. Let's just get there. Okay, so let's make a variable first. What is it? It's going to be, we'll just call it input array is, or we can just say words, which is makes more sense. So words is equal to string. We split the string with the spaces. So there we go. That's the first step. The first step is done. Now, the second step is to be able to sort it. So let's write that. So like I said earlier, the sort function does not return a sorted array. It actually saves the initial array itself sorted. So what we do is just words dot sort. That's the sort method itself. And now we write a function in there. Function with 2 characters. It could be anything. The variable names can be anything. I'm just going to call them A and B. Now we write a function. What we want it to do is return b dot length. It's because we want it in a descending order. A dot length. Okay, now we got the words array sorted out. And while we're returning the value, all we want to do is words first character dot length. So we got a numeral value returned. So now let's just run it. There we go. The world rejoices. Awesome. So that's about sorting and how sorting can be used and what actually sorting function does to an array of characters or numbers or how the behavior is affected by the ASCII values. So this is a little bit about finding the longest word. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching, guys. And of course, if you like the video, do like, and if you want more videos from me, do subscribe to my channel. I will see you on my next video. Until then, enjoy coding. Bye.